49ers Bears, it was a wet one as we expected, maybe even wetter than we expected. In Chicago, Soldier Field, the 49ers lose the opener. The beginning of the Trey Lance era starts with an L, 19-10. Croc and I, who was at the stadium, will get into this one and into the chat with you on this live edition Rapid React podcast post week one. Coming up right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock, at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. Thanks for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day, and even your first listen every night if it is post-game like it is on this Sunday. And hello to all of you maybe driving to work on Monday morning, maybe a little disappointed. Maybe we can get to the bottom of some of this. Maybe we'll be less disappointed at the end of this podcast, Croc, and I hope you had an opportunity to dry off after just weathering the storm in nothing but a Niners jersey and a poncho, right, at Soldier Field. Yeah. How was the environment in week one in Chicago, Croc?
So it wasn't as bad for me because I was under the thing or whatever. So yeah, I had solid seats before a lot of people. Got some of the 49er fans with me right now. My guy Jeep Crackhawk, I'm in his hotel room right now, and they were out there, and it was ugly where they were sitting at. So the weather it was hit and miss. It started off, it was really raining. Then it kind of eased up a little bit. Then it came back, and then it came back with a vengeance towards like the fourth quarter.
Let's start there. And we've already seen this question in the chat, and it's really important. And judging on TV, it looked like the conditions were better than I expected actually to start the game. Then you could really see where certain parts of the field were a little bit more wet than others. Then late in the game, clearly it hampered the 49ers' opportunity and Trey Lance's opportunity to throw and come back when it did start coming down really, really hard with all that rain. But to you, Croc, being there in person, how much did the weather have an impact on the outcome of that game?
I think it had an impact on the ending of the game, just how it kind of played out where you have to try to play catch up. But in the sense of the game, the way it started or some of the missed opportunities by the 49ers, I think the 49ers are more to blame than the weather.
To me, the big story about this game isn't so much we didn't see enough high-level play from Justin Fields or Trey Lance to really have Justin Fields was great, Trey Lance was bad, or Trey Lance was good and Justin Fields was bad, or they were both good, or they were both bad, or any of that. Mostly they were both, I think, not that good. But to me, it was the 49ers.
You think so?
I think
okay, so my reason why I say that, right? Obviously, we see some of the elements and things like that, but I thought both of those guys kind of did whatever they had to do to try to win the game. And it wasn't always pretty. We saw an ugly interception by Justin Fields. We saw a bad interception by Trey Lance. And one of the throws that sticks out to me the most, even more so than Trey Lance's interception, was probably the missed tight end wide leak, whatever they call that throwback pass where it's like, hey, you got to hit that, right? And he missed that, and that stuck out. But I don't want to say outside of those, couple of throws, which were huge, I thought for the most part, both guys really did a good job of fighting for their team when the elements weren't very ideal.
This is what I like about both those players, because they both, I think they're both naturally leaders. I think they're both naturally competitive. And I think that bodes well for both of their futures. I don't think they played well necessarily, but I liked the way that Justin Fields came back in that game and didn't get down after I think the 49ers dominated the first half of play. There was not much he could do at all. He had nobody open, and he had guys in his face all in the first half of the game. And his O-line was getting beat by the 49ers defensive line. And Trey Lance, I love what he said after the game, basically listing all the things that he did wrong and why the 49ers lost the game because of him, what he could have done better, and seeing him try to come back and seeing him not fold under pressure. So neither one of those guys folded. I think that's really good, but neither one of them put the team on their back and led them to victory either. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But
I think Justin Fields did.
I mean,
with his legs, he made some plays that when you, again, maybe not ideal, you want him to just, drop back throw strikes. I thought actually Trey Lance did a good job of that. I was actually surprised to see Trey Lance's box score after the game, because just watching it in person, I thought he was much more efficient than what the box score said. But with Justin Fields, there were a lot of off-script plays that he had to make. But because of his ability and the threat of his legs, he was able to do those things. And, it posed a problem for the 49ers defense. So when you say put the team on your back, they needed him. He was everything. They couldn't really, outside of maybe one or two good runs by Montgomery, they couldn't really do anything on the ground. And the stats kind of show that, right? Like the 49ers dominated run game. 49ers had more passing yards. It just 49ers on third down, they converted on more third downs than the Bears. But it was the few times where, Justin Fields was like, okay, I have to make a play, and he did it.
He made some plays, but they were plays that were allowed by the 49ers defense, if that makes sense, like blown coverages. And he made the play,
I think they were blown or allowed because of him. That's what I'm saying. I think because of him, just the threat of him moving. Remember, he broke outside the pocket. You think he got him sacked. You don't. He rolls out. Everybody with the defense flows with him. All of a sudden, Dante Pettis, Catman, is backside, and he's wide open on the busted coverage that was caused because of 49ers' inability to get Justin Fields down.
8 of 17 passing for Justin Fields, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He did have a 85.7 rating. Both quarterbacks sacked twice. Trey Lance ended up, both quarterbacks were sub 500 or sub 50%. Trey Lance throwing a ton at the end and just couldn't complete a pass. It just wasn't happening in the comeback attempt. 13 of 28 passing for 164 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Again, sacked a couple of times in a 50.3 quarterback rating there. And I see what you're saying about Justin Fields. I want to get a little bit more into why he was able to throw both of those touchdown passes, what was going on with the 49ers defense, and what changed, because the 49ers, I don't even know how the Bears were in this game, because the 49ers were dominating the first half. And the 49ers overall stats, you're right, their yards per rush, their third downs, everything was better for the 49ers for the most part in this game. And especially in the first half, Justin Fields had nothing to do. That I think it was a near interception that Justin Fields threw toward Equanimeous St. Brown on the right sideline. It was like a comeback. Equanimeous St. Brown took at least 20 steps to try to slow down and stop and run the comeback. It was the worst route I've ever seen. And it's and he almost throws an interception there. He didn't have a lot of help. And the 49ers weren't allowing him to do anything. And for them to only be down 7-0, for the Bears to only be down 7-0 going into halftime, and it could have been 7-3, but they had that crazy, bizarre, trying to wipe off the turf with a towel penalty, so they couldn't kick the field goal, had to punt instead. Could have been 7-3 going into halftime. The 49ers dominated that. That should have been nowhere near that close of a game. And the 49ers allowed the Bears to stay in it. And then in the second half,
the elements kind of took over and made it much harder, once that kind of snowball started going. But you talked about them, 49ers not really kind of dominating the first half, but not on the scoreboard as much. And again, it goes back to just pure missed opportunities. Again, the throwback to the tight end, gotta have it. Deebo Samuel fumbling inside the 10, right? That's huge. Let's say 49ers connect on the tight end touchdown, but on the Deebo drive, they only get 3. Well, that's 10 points. You're good, right? 10 points with the 7, and you go to up in halftime 17-0, and then you come out with the ball and you drive down the field. That's what you would have liked to see. And I think because of those 2 missed opportunities, which were huge, obviously ultimately really contributing to a loss, I think there's going to be a lot of overreaction, as opposed to that's something that I'd expect them to, to not do game in and game out.
Yeah, and there's so much up and down too. To finish our conversation about the quarterbacks, especially Trey, there was the big miss on the Y leak to Tyler Kroft. Was he was he used to throwing that to George Kittle? Did he expect a little bit more juice from the receiver that he was throwing to out there? Was that part of the timing of why that play was off? He said after the game that he shouldn't have tried to be so perfect with the throw and should have just put it on him because he was so wide open. There was the interception that he threw, which was the classic. I made the joke on Twitter about it right when it happened about, that was the Jimmy G interception. We seen it in training camp. We saw it in practice All the quarterbacks were throwing it. I don't think it's the Jimmy G interception. It's the Kyle Shanahan interception now, because all of his quarterbacks are throwing that same pick. And Trey basically on that interception said he thought he held the safety enough with his eyes and robber coverage, and apparently he didn't. But the play before the interception, I loved what I saw from Trey Lance. Like, there was a lot of good there too. So there was a play where he stepped up in the pocket, found, I think it was Croft maybe it was Dwelly.
Over the middle?
Yeah, it was Dwelly with the dark.
I was like a list of,
even though it was just like it was like a whatever 8-yard first down throw, right? It wasn't like some big bomb or anything. But to see him be in the pocket, be comfortable in the pocket, step up, and on third down make a throw and convert a first down. That was huge. I loved that. And then by the time I ended up being excited about that and was like, wow, that was a great throw. I'm tweeting about it, and he's already thrown an interception in the next play. So, yeah.
And those were the things where I would expect him to kind of continue to grow, not just with the interception. I mean, I was watching the Raiders game, and Derek Carr just threw 3 picks. I watched Joe Burrow earlier. He threw 4 interceptions. I watched Stafford. He threw 3. So, like, there were a ton of interceptions happening. Right. But yeah, you got to hold the safety a little bit more. I thought Jackson, from what I saw, did a really good job of coming from the backside and as a robber and picking up. Like, he did a great job. I mean, he's an all-pro safety. So there will be plays made. But, you talked about that kind of the third down play. And I thought he did a really good job of stepping up, kind of resetting and then firing that ball over the middle. And I thought he did that a few good times over this game. And there was one throw, I don't know what it looked like on TV, but it was to Ayuk. Coming across, and when he let the ball go, from my angle, it's like I'm kind of aligned with the throw, and I didn't even see Ayuk coming. All I saw was 3 like bear defenders, and the ball goes like right between 3 guys, and then out of nowhere comes Ayuk and catch. And I was like, that's the stuff that you want to continue to build off of. And I thought, there were some good things, obviously, but enough bad things to where it resulted in a loss.
All right, I want to talk a little bit more about what happened in the second half. Was it actually the team getting tired? Was it the elements? What was happening in the second half? Why weren't they dominating the line of scrimmage like they were at the beginning of the football game? And then we'll give out some game balls as well, and we'll try to pinpoint what exactly went wrong for the 49ers in Chicago, losing the opener to the Bears 19-10. But first, we got to let the folks out there know about BriteCo. And man, I keep seeing these videos. There was another video of a guy that was trying to propose to his girlfriend, and I think there was somebody's daughter was involved trying to help him with this ring. They open up the box, and bloop bloop, there it goes, bounces through the cracks of the pier and into the water. And dude jumps in the water to try to get it, and it gives me anxiety seeing these videos of people losing their rings, and that's why companies like BriteCo exist. You don't want to be that guy, and you certainly don't want it splatter all over the internet. And if that does become you, BriteCo can help you insure your jewelry or your watch or your engagement ring to make sure you get that full value of that ring if some disaster does happen like that. No matter if it's lost, stolen, or you just can't figure out what happened to it. Go to brite.co/lockedon. It's the fastest and easiest and cheapest way to cover your butt with the best jewelry insurance in the business. You have to see the videos. You can find more videos at BriteCo. They got a bunch of them, and they're just insane. Some of them hilarious. Some just hurt to watch. These folks, a lot of them are people trying to propose and losing their engagement rings that they no doubt spent a whole bunch of money on, and it's been all this elaborate, time to try to plan this engagement. And some of them are hilarious, some of them hurt, but you can see some of those videos for yourself and sign up for coverage for your jewelry at BriteCo. That is brite.co/lockedon. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out the Peacock and Williamson show every single day, talking about the entire NFL, and Croc doing Locked On NFL Draft. Okay, Croc, there was a question about the defense, and to me, they looked tired in the fourth quarter. There was, Armstead and Bosa, they were just kind of gassed, hands on their hips late in the game, but they weren't quite dominating the line of scrimmage like they did earlier in the game. They weren't making things as difficult. At least that's what it looked like to me. What did you see that changed in the second half, or was it just all the penalties and these drives that should have been over that were being extended?
I think it was 100% the penalties with the drives that should have been, done, right? You had several third down situations. And again, I talked about missed opportunities on offense. There definitely were missed opportunities on defense as well, where you have them on third down and a flag keeps the drive going when you stopped them. Like you stop the running back in the backfield and they throw a flag on you. You stop them another time in the backfield, the running back, and they call face mask. And then another time where the quarterback slides and you hit him and it extends the drive and it ends up being a touchdown. And they made the 49ers pay each time they did that. And I think that was one of the more backbreaking things that the 49ers did. Again, offense definitely had their issues, but as it pertains to what we've seen from the 49ers in previous years where, oh man, offense, especially early in the season, not clicking extremely well. Well, what can the 49ers usually count on during that time? Well, the defense is very stout. I thought today they kind of, I don't want to say let the offense down because the offense only scored 10 points, but they didn't really pick them up when the offense was kind of lackadaisical, especially with the conditions.
The penalties, if there's one thing you point to in this game, that was the one reason why the 49ers lost the game. It was the penalties. It can't happen. Multiple from Drake Greenlaw. I don't know what was going through his head. Then there was the third that was Al-Shaair, and I thought that was Greenlaw too. And I was like, you got to take this guy out of the game. But I was like, oh, now it's Al-Shaair. You can't take them both out of the game. What's going on?
I have to defend Al-Shaair just a little bit. Justin Fields does like this very late slide, and he does a great slide. So I don't know, did he play baseball or something? But he has a great slide. One time it didn't even get into a full slide. He just like took a knee and then popped right up, right? But he slides at the last minute, and 49ers were having a tough time just corralling him in general. So you're telling me, okay, you're moving, you got him out there in space, and it's like, okay, you're ready. You're about to shoot right now. And you go to shoot, then all of a sudden he just bloop drops down really quick, and he's great at it. And then you kind of go and you hit him, and I don't think it was like a malicious act. I think it's just you already have your mind made up that you're going to get him, and he just drops down. I think that's tough. I've talked about that on social media before, where I feel like there should be some kind of buffer where you don't get the flag if you slide too late. I just don't know how they kind of differentiate that gray area, but it's extremely difficult for defenders, and it definitely was on the Al-Shaair one.
Especially when you're close to the line to gain for a first down, and you're a defender, you're thinking, I've got to stop this guy from getting a first down, and this is happening quick. And so I agree that is very difficult. What happens in a game like this where one team has so many more penalties than the other? Some fans are going to blame the refs. Did you see any egregiously bad calls from the refs, or do you think the 49ers were earning those penalties?
I thought for the most part the 49ers lost because of them. Yeah, and then we talked about the penalties with being undisciplined and Drake Greenlaw. And I'd have to see the not TV, but like all 22 on some of the things. But it sounds like Drake Greenlaw not only hurt them with penalties, but in coverage as well, where there were a few busted coverages that he was responsible for. Now, again, I'm just going off of some of the things that I've seen and what I heard. I haven't actually, seen those plays run back. But that's more concerning probably than anything.
Yeah, maybe then, okay, because I kind of want to talk about some of the coverage stuff, both from the 49ers and the Bears side, because my first, and this is the big thing, the big takeaway for 49ers fans who might be upset about the loss is these are such small samples, and this game was even weirder with the penalties and the rain and everything, and it's week one. It's always going to be awkward, teams feeling each other out, teams starting slow sometimes, might not have their midseason legs under them. Might not have all the cohesion they're going to have later on in the season. But things change so much week to week. Every game was just bonkers in the entire NFL in week one, it seemed like. And
really weird games, huh?
Yeah, and so this is not going to be the way it is every week just because we saw it. And it wasn't even the same from the first half to the second half. Like, things are going to be different. So next week, they're not going to have 12 penalties for 100 yards. It's not going to be a torrential downpour. It's going to be a very different game, a very different 49ers team that you see. Things change so much in the NFL, and you can't bank on anything. You can't bank on the guys being exactly who they were from week one to week two. You can't even bank on them being the same guys they were from season to season. So that's one thing to remember about this game for 49ers fans out there. But one of my points about Justin Fields, and you brought it up with Trey Greenlaw, is even the big throws he made were just like busted coverage plays. And it wasn't like he was like hitting a receiver in stride. And, it was like, and I think both of the big ones might have been Greenlaw. I think the Equinemius St. Brown touchdown, it seemed like everybody busted that coverage on the play action because there was only one guy in coverage, and it was Hufanga by himself in the middle of the field, and he just got caught in the middle because he couldn't go anywhere, but ended up going to St. Brown for the touchdown. It was a nice little touch throw from Justin Fields on that one. And then the blown coverage on Dante Pettis, I think was where Trey Greenlaw's zone was, and he kind of migrated over toward the middle field and was kind of moseying on the other side of the field and lost his responsibilities over there. So not a good game at all for Dre Greenlaw, that's for sure. Not a good game for, I think, head coach Kyle Shanahan. Like, where do you go to point to, okay, if your team lost because of penalties and lost because of like blown coverages and lost because of losing the turnover battle, right? Where do you go to other than coaching? Like, is this, do you, like, right, if you're giving out game balls, do you give out a game ball to Matt Eberflus for his first NFL win as a head coach and just say that, hey, he out-coached Kyle Shanahan?
Right. And I think that's what you would say. When you look at coaching, and I have gotten text messages from people saying, oh man, Kyle Shanahan, he called a crappy game. Oh, the one crappy thing I will say Kyle Shanahan did, again, I keep going back to missed opportunities because I think that's what a lot of this game was, but 4th and 1 from midfield and you punted. Mm. The 49ers run game had been doing very well, I thought, on the ground, really pushing the pile, getting yards. They kind of really were able to do whatever they wanted on the ground to a certain extent. And not going for it on 4th and 1, you start talking about being out-coached. How about, one coach, I don't want to say having bigger balls than the other, but you kind of show you don't maybe have the biggest stones by not being more aggressive in that. And that's not a hindsight thing. I said it to my brother. He sat next to me. I saw people on Twitter saying, why would Kyle not go for it? So a lot of people, even in that moment, were like, he needs to be more aggressive right here. And that was one thing that, and I don't know if anybody asked him about it, but probably would want that one back.
Yeah, he's not the most aggressive coach at all when it comes to those things. Surprisingly for, still on the younger side for NFL coaches. He definitely has an old soul as far as his coaching style in the NFL. I want to go down that path a little bit further with Kyle Shanahan and his actual game planning and calling of that game, specifically as it pertains to Deebo Samuel and Trey Lance and getting those guys hit as much as they were hit in this football game. That will be next, and we'll give out some game balls as well. I think there are some game balls still to give out in that sloppy 49ers loss, but I want to let the folks out there know about PrizePicks. And if you bet the under on passing yards for both Trey Lance and Justin Fields, you would have been a winner at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is super fun and super easy daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their prize pick projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's not some big pool of people like fantasy football where there might be some sharks in there and it's really difficult to win. It's just you versus those prize picks projections that are available every single week and every single day in tons of sports. It's not just NFL. It's NBA, Major League Baseball, golf, college football, men's and women's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, NASCAR, tennis, cricket, disc golf, boxing, MMA. You get the point. Like everything you can imagine. Esports, you can find those projections and try to go over or under those projections at PrizePicks. Entries can be made easily and in only 60 seconds or less. It's super easy. It's safe and fast to withdraw your winnings as well. Currently operational in over 30 states, including Canada. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. So if you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50 more to play with. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up to get that offer. Again, promo code LOCKEDON at PrizePicks for an instant deposit match up to $100. All right, Croc, what did you think about the usage of Deebo Samuel? And we've talked about this all off season long. I've talked about it with both Trey Lance and Deebo Samuel. It's like the one thing you don't want to happen is for them to get broken and them to be getting hit a lot. And what do? You come out in week 1. This is a game the Niners should be able to dominate. And it wasn't so much that, oh man, okay, we're down. got to do whatever we can to go win this game. It was the game plan from jump. Like Deebo Samuel was getting more carries than Elijah Mitchell when Elijah Mitchell was averaging 6 yards per carry before he got hurt in the game. They had that goal line. They had 1st and goal, and they gave the ball to Deebo twice with Elijah Mitchell just standing there. Would Elijah Mitchell got in the end zone like Deebo did? I don't know. I think he probably would have, but I find it a little worrisome that they were leaning on Deebo so early, and I just don't like seeing Deebo and Trey Lance getting hit as much as they were to begin the season. And I just don't think that should be the game plan. That should be the wrinkle to the game plan with those two players. And it worries me that Kyle Shanahan thinks he doesn't have enough bullets elsewhere, and he has to lean on those guys that much.
Yeah, I think ultimately we have to start looking at Deebo Samuel in a different light. Like, he is a true wideback in every sense of the word. I think last year we just kind of looked at it.
He's more back than wide.
He's more back than wide.
Right?
Yeah. I think last season we thought, like, okay, middle of the season, Elijah Mitchell goes down. They start handing the ball off to Deebo. I get it. And then this year, Elijah Mitchell goes down again, which has been a really reoccurring theme.
That's another worrisome wrinkle. But hey, now you can activate.
He was running so well too. No, I mean, okay, good. Trey Mason or TDP, whatever. But Elijah Mitchell was running extremely well. And then all of a sudden it's like, he's not coming back in. What? When did he get hurt?
I don't know. And that's the thing, is because that series that I was talking about where they gave the ball to Deebo twice at the goal line and the Niners scored, I don't know if Lance if Mitchell got hurt on one of those plays or if he was already banged up, because I don't remember seeing him out on the field again. Maybe he was out there for one more play and got hurt later, but that was kind of that was it for him. All of a sudden he was gone and out of the game. And yeah, it's worrisome for Elijah Mitchell to go through as many injuries as he had. He just got back on the field in practice from a hamstring. Now he's got a knee injury, and we'll find out more, I'm sure, tomorrow after MRIs with what's going on there. Speaking of injuries, one more question.
Body.
Yeah, one more question I want to ask you, Croc, in this game. How much of a factor do you think that George Kittle did not play of the 49ers losing this game?
I don't think much. Now, maybe when I say not much, I think they did a really good job of, tight ends catching the ball, et cetera. I mean, outside of the overthrow on the tight end.
I think so.
Like you said, maybe if it's Kittle, does he catch it? I mean, I don't know. It was overthrown.
Yeah,
right?
It was,
and we've seen that before. Hell, we've seen it to Deebo. Not Deebo, excuse me. We've seen it to Kittle overthrown. 2018, week 1, Minnesota Vikings. He leaks out. Jimmy Garoppolo throws it. Remember, he just let him a little too much. Remember that?
Yeah. Maybe it's just a week 1 thing.
It might be a week 1 thing. But I think what you miss from him is just the ability to affect the game in the passing game on any given play. He can potentially score. And you didn't have the threat of that. But just in the sense of how I felt like the Titans performed, the run game was well. So if you're talking about from a run blocking standpoint, I thought they were good there. The tight ends, for the most part, did a really good job of catching passes. Late, I think Juszczyk had one just go off his hands when it was like storming like a tsunami out there. But for the most part, again, yes, you miss him because he's such a great player, but I thought they covered up for him well.
I've seen a lot of this really quick before we get to our game balls. The Jimmy Garoppolo thing. First of all, it has to stop. Pete says, what did Lance do that Jimmy couldn't do? Like, it's not like Jimmy was lighting up games in the rain. We saw what happened last year against the Colts. Jimmy couldn't make a play. Carson Wentz could. Trey Lance can do a lot more with his legs than Jimmy can. So, I mean, it's not like Jimmy Garoppolo is going to go out there in that downpour and be slinging the ball over the place. So that's just not it. So
he threw multiple bad interceptions in that. Yeah. Or maybe 2-3 interceptions in that rain last year against the Colts.
And you have to get Lance. That's the thing with Lance, is you need him to go through these types of games, and you need him to see more looks. You have more reps. Go through games that are wet. Go through games that are against this type of defense. I think the most fascinating stat in this whole game is from Nick Wagner of ESPN that covers the 49ers. He said the Bears did not blitz 49ers quarterback Trey Lance on any of his 34 dropbacks Sunday. Lance is only the 7th quarterback in the last 15 seasons to drop back to pass 30-plus times and not face a blitz. Quarterbacks in those situations are only 1 in 6.
You know You know who else that just happened to?
No.
I want to say Matthew Stafford this last week.
Oh, on Thursday?
And he threw like 3 interceptions. Yeah, they didn't blitz him at all, not one time.
Wow.
They just rushed 4.
A lot of zone coverage with those teams?
I would assume.
Trying to think of what the Bills' coverage was looking like against Stafford. I know there was a lot of zone, a lot of cover 2 against Trey Lance from Matt Eberflus's defense. But yeah, that's fascinating. No blitzing. Just like, we're going to get home with 4. We're going to keep our eyes on you, and we're going to try to have fewer windows for you to throw into. And it worked. Talking about the coverage stuff really quick. And actually, you know what? Actually, let's not talk about the coverage stuff, because I want you to go watch the film and go watch the game back, because I want you to watch the coverage mistakes the 49ers made, especially in the 2 big plays, the touchdown to Equanimeous St. Brown, the touchdown to Dante Pettis. And then on the other side, the safeties for the Bears, I thought were awful at the beginning of the game. I thought Brisker looked lost. When you watch that throw you're talking about early with Brandon Ayuk getting open, Brisker picked his own guy. He didn't know where to go. He had no idea what he was doing. And
are you talking about like on the first drive?
On the first drive, the first big one, to the 30-yarder to Ayuk, where he's like running across.
Okay, that's not the one I was talking. I was talking about the one later in the game.
Okay, well, there's only 2, right? I think Ayuk only caught 2 passes.
Yeah, to Ayuk. Yeah.
Okay. So the other one. Okay. And then
the one I saw, I was saying from the angle where I was lined up, when Lance let the ball go, I didn't see any 49er in the picture. I just saw like 3 Bears defenders, and he put it in the spot, and then out of nowhere, Ayuk comes across and catches it. I was like, wow, that was a great anticipation throw.
Mike says Brisker was good in the run game. He did cause the fumble and jump on the fumble with Deebo early in the game. He made a couple of plays later. He had a nice tackle for loss, but in coverage, I didn't think he was great. And I don't know, it didn't look good. But then he did start making a few more plays later in the game, and Eddie Jackson started playing better and had the interception against Trey Lance. I thought they both looked bad at the beginning of the game. So that's something I want you to look for. And another thing I want you to look for is, as we get to our man, how did we already go 30 minutes here? We got to get out of here pretty quick, but we have to do our game balls. And of course, we're going to come back tomorrow and dive into this game a whole bunch more. But talking about game balls, I was impressed what I saw from Charvarius Ward. I mean, the dude's just strapping people up right on the outside. They tried to go, they had one-on-ones, tried to go deep on his side twice, once to Mooney, once to Byron Pringle. There's nowhere to throw that ball on either one of those plays. So I love to see that.
Holding on him one time, I want to say against Dante Pettis. It's hard to see from where I was, but it looked like he was just strapped. And then looking at the replay where they had it, again, it was kind of zoomed out, but still it was like he was strapped up. So that was tough, because I want to say that might have been a third down play.
Because those plays, those busts in coverage, they had nothing to do with the outside corners. I thought the outside corners, both Mosley and Charvarius Ward, had it pretty locked up the entire game. So I feel like those guys deserve game balls, and it's hard because, they didn't make any big plays necessarily, but there was nowhere to go with the football on the outside all day long. The other one is Hufanga, and Hufanga had an awesome game. He was flying around all over the place, and at this point, and again, this is one where maybe we'll take the game ball away tomorrow, Croc, after you watch, because he was involved in that blown coverage on the Equanimeous St. Brown touchdown. But he was all over the place. Tackles for loss. He led the team. He led the entire game, I think, with 11 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. He had the interception. And so I guess at this point, I got to stop worrying about Talanoa Hufanga. Like, he's good. And he's so smart.
Not if he has the busted plays. And again, like all younger guys, the more you play, you see different things, and you have to learn from it, right? But I will say, just watching him, saw him directing traffic, slicing in there, making tackles at the line of scrimmage. Obviously he jumped, the pass on the interception, which I'm like, because it was like a longer developing play. It wasn't even like a quick play where it's like, it happens right now. And kind of like that was happened with like Trey Lance, right? It was like a longer developing play, and all of a sudden he just comes out, and I'm like, dang, how Justin Fields didn't see him?
Yeah, that was as much bad on Justin Fields' part as good, I think, on Hufanga's part. But he made the play and he caught it. But yeah, that was like, you can't be that. Like, that's the old saying, right? You can't be late over the middle. And Fields is like looking too long. It was like, there's only one Bear, and there's a whole bunch of 49ers around. He's looking at him for too long, and he throws it, and Hufanga's right there. So maybe he thought he could still fit it in. I don't know. But yeah, Hufanga's so good at diagnosing and firing on the ball and firing on the play when it's in front of him. And that's clear. And he was good with that this week, and he's always been good with that. But I like seeing him make a play in coverage. But I don't know. I want to get your opinion on that Equinemius St. Brown touchdown. If you thought there's anything he could do, because that was tough, because there was multiple busted wide receivers running wide open on that play.
Yeah, I got to see the guy. I just saw play action, and the guy just running up the middle of the field wide open. That was all I saw. So,
did you see any other worthy? I mean, it's hard in a game like this, but do you see anybody else worthy of a game ball in the 49ers Week 1 loss?
Oh, man. Probably the weather.
The weather?
The weather game ball.
Yeah. The good Lord above is undefeated still.
And, the crazy thing is we talked about, the weather and like, oh, man, like that bodes well for the 49ers because of how they want to play. Good defense, run the ball, et cetera. So, it's not like they're a team that wants to drop back and throw the ball 30 times right now, at least where Lance is in his development right now. So you thought it boded well for them having the weather where it wouldn't be that much of an issue. But when you have busted plays in coverage and you have to try to play catch up, then that's when the weather kind of does its part and end up being getting the game ball. I don't know, I guess in favor of the Bears.
I want to say Nick Bosa. He had 1 sack, 1 tackle for a loss, a couple of quarterback hits. But he's also stuffing the run all day long. He was really good. I even expected more from him, especially when he had the early sack. But again, the second half, I think maybe that defensive line just got a little bit gassed. They were out on the field a little bit too long. And so I think that's why they didn't continue to dominate as much into the second half as they did in the first half.
Right.
Tough one, man. That was a tough game. The 49ers had no business losing to the Chicago Bears. I mean, you got to be able to win those.
They looked like they were the better team. The 49ers looked like they were the better team, and they just did some weird stuff. And, having the penalties, keeping drives going on third downs for the Bears, or backing your offense up with false starts and things like that. I think I saw Kyle Shanahan cuss at Trey Lance, like, snap the damn ball or something like that. So, doing those kind of things, those result in losses. And they lost the turnover battle in that time. So
people said Kinlaw for a game ball. I'm going to say no to that. We don't have time to get into it, but let's talk a little bit about Kinlaw too, because I'm still seeing something different than a lot of people are with Javon Kinlaw and his play, which is a lot more erratic than I think people realize. We'll talk a little bit more about coverage when our guy Croc, the coverage and wide receiver expert, looks a little bit closer at the tape. And Jordan Mason. He had a uniform on. He was on special teams, but they didn't hand him the ball. I would like to see him get the ball in this game. But with Elijah Mitchell potentially out, we'll see if maybe he gets the ball next week and is still running ahead of Ty Davis-Price, or if Ty Davis-Price will be ahead of him, because Kyle Shanahan did say that it was special teams is the reason Jordan Mason was suited up and TDP was not on Sunday. So that might change if someone like Elijah Mitchell is out next week. All right, we'll get more into this game. We'll get more into everything San Francisco 49ers, and then close the book on Week 1 and start looking ahead to Week 2. I want to thank everybody jumping in on the live stream with us on today's program, and probably go live again a little bit later in the week because it's fun, and I like chatting it up with all of you guys. Croc, safe travels. I'm glad you were able to get yourself dry. Hope you have a good night before you come back to, I was going to say come back to Cali. You're not coming back to Cali. You're heading down to Arkansas.
The sticks.
Out in the sticks. What's it like for you? Is it weird just being in the big city now since you're a country boy?
Oh, okay. Let me talk about real quick before we get out of here. Chicago. Amazing city. I've been here. I played a game here in 2012. So, we kind of went out to some bar afterwards or whatever. But really being able to kind of be more of a quote-unquote tourist or whatever, do some different things throughout this city. Beautiful city, amazing downtown. The weather Friday and Saturday was great weather, like perfect weather before the monsoon came in today. But beautiful city and very clean, which was weird. Wasn't expecting, clean. Like you don't even see any trash on the street. The subway was clean. I even touched the bars. Because you sit down at Subway, it's like, I don't want to touch anything. But I was like, this Subway's clean. Yeah, great city.
That's good stuff. And by the way, I know everyone's going to be rooting for Russell Wilson's new team and the Denver Broncos on Monday Night Football. We might come back after Monday night, and the 49ers are tied for first place in the NFC West because already 3 of the 4 teams have lost with one more game to go. So that quickly became not the best division in the NFL to start this 2022 season. All right, thanks everybody once again for making us your first listen. Croc and I back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.